Go back to another topic that is related to information given to the operators, which is the pilot training following the Lion Air crash. Once there was a determination to work on the fix to the MCAS system, there's an ongoing conversation about what additional pilot training, if any, would be required. So I just want to make sure that I understand. I have a couple quick questions. Following the Lion Air crash, Boeing began developing a software update for MCAS, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And as part of the software update process, does Boeing need approval of associated pilot training standards by the FAA's Flight Standard Service?
Not necessarily for that specific change at the time.
Well, it's my understanding that in December of 2018, Boeing met with the FAA's Transport Aircraft Evaluation Group to discuss and plan, evaluate and validate the MAX, the system enhancements, correct?
That was subsequent, yes.
And part of that conversation was that the FAA tasked Boeing with proposing pilot training related to the MCAS software fix that would be evaluated and documented in the FAA's Flight Standardization Board report. What level of pilot training did Boeing propose to the FAA?
It would have been level B training, which is the classroom or CBT, computer-based training.
Would it surprise you to learn that Boeing recommended level A training at that time?
I'm not aware of that.
You're not aware that Boeing recommended level A pilot training instead of level B?
No, I'm not aware.
Mr. Muhlenberg, are you aware that Boeing recommended level A training instead of level B?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Well, according to a letter from Boeing to the FAA, Boeing represented that for the MCAS enhancement, level A training would only be required. And Boeing stated in the letter that its position, which I have the letter here in front of me and happy to present to you all, that Boeing believes that the rationale for the original recommendation was still applicable, and that Boeing believes there isn't a difference relating to the MCAS flight control law, doesn't affect pilot knowledge, skills, abilities, or flight safety. Do you still believe that statement is true?
With the software changes being made, it was going to prevent the MCAS from operating like it did in the accident flight, so yes.
You still believe that level A training would be the appropriate level of training?
The software changes will prevent the pilots from ever seeing that type of condition again.
Do you understand that the FAA responded to that by saying that they cautioned Boeing that level A training might not be the appropriate level of training, and that while they were willing to evaluate the proposal, that Boeing was proceeding at its own risk?
I'm not familiar with that.
Mr. Muhlenberg, are you familiar with that recommendation from the FAA that to proceed with only level A training, Boeing would be proceeding at its own risk?
Congresswoman, I am not, but we can certainly follow up on that, and we will.
Thank you. It's my understanding that following that exchange between the FAA and Boeing, that the FAA said that it would be okay to proceed with scheduled flight simulation tests. Are you aware of that part of the process? That there was flight simulator tests were scheduled? Do you know when those were earlier this year?
What time frame are you referring to?
Well, the simulator tests were scheduled for March 13th, 2019. Are you familiar with those tests?
I recall that there were some simulator tests down in Miami around that time, yes.
And what date did the Ethiopian Airlines crash take place?
It was in March of 20...
March 10th, 2019, before the simulator tests. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. I just want to, in response to a previous